For much of Earth's long history, the planet has swung between warmth and cold. There have been times when tropical forests stretched across continents, and other times when vast ice sheets reached down from the poles, locking water into frozen walls that stretched for thousands of kilometers. When we speak of the Ice Age, we usually imagine the most recent chapter, the great Pleistocene glaciations, when mammoths roamed, saber-toothed cats hunted, and early humans survived in harsh, frozen landscapes. But the truth is more complex and more fascinating. The Ice Age wasn't a single block of time. It was a series of glacial and interglacial cycles that came and went, waxing and waning with the rhythm of Earth's orbit and climate. Glaciers advanced, then retreated. Temperatures plummeted, then rose again. Entire ecosystems shifted, reshaped by the push and pull of ice. And before we dive into the familiar imagery of woolly mammoths and ice hunters, it's important to understand just what an ice age is, how it begins, and why it changes the course of life on Earth. If you're already feeling settled into this story, it would mean a lot if you gave this video a gentle like. And if you'd like to hear more journeys like this, consider subscribing. I'd also love to know, where in the world are you listening from tonight? An ice age is not just a cold spell. By definition, it is a long-term drop in global temperatures that allows massive ice sheets and glaciers to form and persist on continents. During these times, polar regions expand their icy reach, and the balance of life tilts. Rainfall patterns shift, sea levels fall, forests give way to tundra and grassland. The current geological definition of the Ice Age includes the Quaternary glaciation, the period that began about 2.6 million years ago and technically continues to this day. Yes, we are still in an ice age right now. The only reason it doesn't feel like it is because we are living in an interglacial period, a warmer break in between the great expansions of ice. But Earth has known other ice ages, stretching back deep into prehistory. The Huronian Ice Age, nearly 2.4 billion years ago. The Cryogenian, over 700 million years ago, when glaciers may have turned Earth into a snowball planet. And later, the Karoo Ice Age, about 300 million years ago, which saw glaciers spread during the time of early reptiles. Each of these frozen episodes shaped evolution in unique ways. For our story, however, we will focus on the Pleistocene Ice Age and its aftermath, the one closest to us, the one that humans lived through, and the one that forged much of the modern world. Ice ages are not constant. They breathe, expanding and contracting with the heartbeat of Earth's orbit around the Sun. These natural rhythms are called Milankovitch cycles, named after the Serbian scientist Milutin Milankovitch, who calculated how small variations in Earth's orbit, tilt, and wobble influence climate. Eccentricity the shape of Earth's orbit changes from more circular to more elliptical in cycles lasting about 100,000 years. Obliquity. The tilt of Earth's axis shifts between about 22 degrees and 25 degrees, affecting how extreme the seasons are on a 41,000-year cycle. Precession. Earth slowly wobbles like a spinning top, changing the timing of the seasons over a 26,000-year cycle. These orbital changes alter the amount and distribution of sunlight Earth receives. When conditions line up, summers in the northern hemisphere become cooler, allowing snow and ice to accumulate year after year without fully melting. Over thousands of years, this builds into massive continental glaciers. When conditions shift again, warmer summers return, melting back the ice and allowing forests and grasslands to re-expand. Thus, during the Pleistocene, Earth experienced repeated swings, glacial periods when ice sheets dominated, and interglacials when warmer climates briefly reclaimed the land. The most recent glacial maximum ended only about 11,700 years ago, giving rise to the warm Holocene epoch, our present age. Ice may seem passive, but it is one of the most powerful forces in shaping the land. Glaciers grind down mountains, carve valleys, and transport enormous quantities of rock and soil. They redirect rivers, dam lakes, and create new landscapes. As the ice advances, it bulldozes everything in its path. As it retreats, it leaves behind scoured plains, fertile soils, and chains of lakes. During the height of the Pleistocene, ice sheets covered much of North America, Northern Europe, and Asia. In some places, the ice was over 3 kilometers thick. Sea levels fell by more than 100 meters, exposing land bridges like Beringia between Siberia and Alaska. These icy highways and barriers influenced the migration of animals and, eventually, humans. Around 2.6 million years ago, the world began to cool significantly. The Isthmus of Panama closed, linking North and South America and altering ocean currents. The uplift of mountain ranges, such as the Himalayas and Andes, affected atmospheric circulation. Together, these changes helped tip the balance toward global cooling. Forests began to shrink, replaced by open grasslands and tundras. Animals that could adapt to the cold began to thrive. Woolly ancestors of mammoths appeared, along with early forms of bison, musk oxen, and caribou. Large cats and bears adapted to these new conditions, and beneath the ice, in caves and sheltered valleys, early humans and their relatives began their long struggle for survival. In this first part, we have explored what an ice age is, how it works, and how the most recent ice age, the Pleistocene, began. But this is only the foundation. The story of the ice age is not just about glaciers and cold. It is about life adapting, evolving, and finding ways to flourish, even in the harshest conditions. In the chapters ahead, we will journey deeper into the frozen landscapes of the Pleistocene. We will meet the great beasts of the Ice Age, the mammoths, mastodons, saber-toothed cats, and giant ground sloths. We will explore how humans survived, hunted, and created culture in this unforgiving world. And we will watch as the ice advanced and retreated, sculpting the land and setting the stage for the modern Earth. The Ice Age is not only a tale of extinction and hardship, it is also a story of resilience, adaptation, and change. The cold forged new worlds, and in many ways, it forged us. The Pleistocene epoch opened about 2.6 million years ago, marking one of the most dramatic climate shifts in Earth's recent history. From warm, forested Miocene and Pliocene landscapes, the world pivoted sharply into an age of advancing and retreating ice. This epoch would last until around 11,700 years ago, spanning nearly 2.5 million years and defining much of the world we know today. For life on Earth, this was both a time of challenge and opportunity. The rhythms of glacial and interglacial cycles reshaped continents, shifted coastlines, and opened new pathways for migration. Forests and grasslands waxed and waned, deserts spread and retreated, and sea levels rose and fell. With each swing, species adapted, evolved, or vanished. The Pleistocene is often remembered for its megafauna, mammoths, mastodons, saber-toothed cats. But the epoch was more than just an age of giants. It was also the crucible of human evolution. During the Pleistocene, Earth's climate moved in cycles of approximately 100,000 years, tied to Milankovitch rhythms. Each cycle saw a great build-up of ice, a period of peak glaciation, and then a warming interlude before the ice returned. Glacial periods. Ice sheets expanded over North America, Europe, and Asia, dropping global temperatures by 5 to 10 degrees Celsius compared to today. Vegetation shifted to tundra and steppe. Deserts grew, and many regions became inhospitable. Interglacial periods. The ice receded, forests returned, and ecosystems briefly flourished in warmer, wetter conditions. Over the span of the Pleistocene, at least 11 major glaciations occurred, each reshaping the planet. One of the most striking features of the Pleistocene was the enormous ice sheets that advanced over continents. In North America, the Laurentide ice sheet stretched from the Arctic all the way into what is now New York and Illinois. It was so heavy that it depressed the crust of the continent, creating basins that later filled with the Great Lakes. In Northern Europe, the Fennoscandian ice sheet covered Scandinavia, northern Germany, and parts of Britain. In Asia, glaciers expanded across Siberia and the Himalayas, feeding powerful rivers and carving valleys. In the southern hemisphere, Patagonia, New Zealand, and Antarctica saw advancing ice, though Africa and Australia remained largely unglaciated. The expansion of ice was not uniform. While higher latitudes were dominated by glaciers, equatorial regions saw dramatic changes in rainfall. Deserts expanded during glacial maxima, squeezing animals and humans into refuges where water remained. As glaciers locked up enormous amounts of water, sea levels fell by as much as 120 meters. This reshaped the outline of continents. Beringia, the land bridge between Siberia and Alaska, became a crucial migration route for animals, and eventually humans, into the Americas. The Sunda Shelf connected much of Southeast Asia, allowing species to cross between what are now separate islands. Australia, New Guinea, and Tasmania formed a single landmass called Sahul, opening new ecological frontiers. These changes weren't permanent. As the ice retreated, seas rose, drowning land bridges and isolating populations. This constant shifting spurred both diversity and extinction. The Pleistocene wasn't simply cold everywhere. Ecosystems adapted in remarkable ways. Steppe tundra, mammoth steppe. A vast biome stretching from Spain across Eurasia to North America, dominated by hardy grasses and herbs. This was home to mammoths, woolly rhinoceroses, bison, horses, and predators like wolves and big cats. Boreal forests. Coniferous forests fringed the edges of the ice sheets, harboring elk, moose, and brown bears. Savannas and grasslands. In Africa and southern Asia, glaciations brought drier conditions that expanded open grasslands, supporting elephants, antelope, and early hominins. Oceans. Cooler oceans shifted fish distributions, while exposed continental shelves created new coastal habitats. These shifting biomes forced species to migrate constantly, following food and climate. Those that couldn't adapt often vanished. While dinosaurs had long vanished, the Pleistocene produced its own roster of extraordinary animals. Mammoths, cousins of modern elephants. They spread across the northern continents, with species ranging from the towering imperial mammoth to the woolly mammoth adapted to cold. Mastodons, stocky relatives of elephants, preferring forested environments. Woolly rhinoceroses, thick-furred grazers of Eurasian steppe. Giant ground sloths, massive herbivores of the Americas, some as large as elephants. Saber-toothed cats, Smilodon, apex predators with iconic curved canines. Short-faced bears, enormous carnivores of North America, towering above modern grizzlies. These megafauna thrived in the resource-rich but volatile Pleistocene landscapes. Their size gave them advantages in cold climates, conserving heat, fending off predators, and traveling long distances. Perhaps the most defining feature of the Pleistocene was the rise of humans. Around 2.5 million years ago, the first tools of Homo habilis appear in Africa, coinciding almost exactly with the dawn of the Pleistocene. By 1.8 million years ago, Homo erectus had spread from Africa into Eurasia, mastering fire and adapting to varied environments. In Europe and Western Asia, Neanderthals developed, perfectly suited to cold climates, with stocky builds and large brains. In Asia, Denisovans emerged, leaving their genetic legacy in modern populations. The Ice Age was not just a backdrop for human evolution, it was the engine that drove it. The changing climates, fluctuating ecosystems, and challenges of survival forged intelligence, adaptability, and social cooperation. Life during the early Pleistocene was anything but static. Each advance of the ice forced migrations, compressing populations into refuges where competition grew fierce. Each retreat reopened landscapes, allowing expansion and diversification. Species came and went in waves. Volcanoes, earthquakes, and shifting rivers added to the drama. The world was dynamic, often unstable, but endlessly creative. The Pleistocene had only just begun. Ice would advance and retreat many times, sculpting continents and steering evolution. Megafauna would rise to dominance, and humans would slowly spread, adapting to new worlds. In the next part, we'll step deeper into this frozen epoch and meet the world of giants, the mammoths, mastodons, saber-toothed cats, and more, who ruled the landscapes of the Ice Age. The Pleistocene epoch is often called the Age of Giants, not because it had dinosaurs, those had vanished 65 million years earlier, but because it produced some of the largest and most iconic mammals to ever walk the earth. Towering mammoths, tusked mastodons, shaggy woolly rhinoceroses, enormous ground sloths, and saber-toothed predators filled landscapes shaped by ice and shifting climates. For millions of years, these animals thrived across the continents, adapting to freezing tundra, open grasslands, and patchy forests. They were symbols of resilience, perfectly suited to the unpredictable Ice Age. Their stories are central to understanding what Earth was like during this time. Few animals embody the Ice Age more than the mammoth. Ancestry and evolution. Mammoths were part of the elephant family, evolving around 5 million years ago in Africa before spreading across Eurasia and North America. Diversity. At least 10 species existed, from the colossal imperial mammoth, which could reach 4.5 meters tall, to the compact woolly mammoth, adapted to cold with thick fur, small ears, and layers of fat. Adaptations. Their long curved tusks could sweep snow aside to uncover grass. Their molars were ridged, perfect for grinding tough steppe vegetation. Range. The woolly mammoth roamed from Spain to Siberia, across the Bering Land Bridge into North America, forming vast herds that grazed the mammoth steppe. Mammoths were not simply cold survivors. They were ecosystem engineers, trampling vegetation, dispersing seeds, and fertilizing soils with dung. shaping the Ice Age landscape, much as elephants do today. Alongside mammoths were their cousins, the mastodons. Distinct from mammoths, though similar in appearance, mastodons belong to a different branch of the elephant family tree. They had shorter, straighter tusks and teeth with cone-shaped cusps, suited for browsing on leaves and twigs rather than grazing grass. Habitat. Mastodons preferred forested regions, ranging across North and Central America. Longevity. They appeared earlier than mammoths, around 25 million years ago, and endured until about 10,000 years ago. While mammoths ruled the open steppe, mastodons thrived in woodlands, highlighting the diversity of Ice Age ecosystems. Another iconic resident of the Pleistocene was the woolly rhinoceros, Coelodonta antiquitatis. Covered in long, shaggy fur, with thick skin and a massive hump of fat over its shoulders. It was built for extreme cold. Its front horn, often over a metre long, was flattened from side to side, likely used to sweep snow and fight rivals. Found across Europe and Asia, woolly rhinos grazed alongside mammoths, feeding on tough grasses and herbs. Cave paintings in Europe even depict these animals, proving they were familiar to Ice Age humans. While the Old World had mammoths and rhinos, the New World boasted equally strange giants, the giant ground sloths. In South America, species like Megatherium reached the size of an elephant, up to 6 meters long when standing on hind legs. Unlike modern tree-dwelling sloths, these were slow but powerful herbivores, stripping leaves and branches with huge claws. Their thick hides, possibly armored with bone plates, protected them from predators. Some ground sloths spread north into North America, including Erymatherium, a towering browser. Their lumbering presence defined American Ice Age landscapes. Where there are giants, there are hunters. The Ice Age produced some of the most formidable carnivores in history. Saber-toothed cats, Smilodon. With canines up to 18 centimeters long, Smilodon was a specialist predator of large prey. Stocky and muscular, it ambushed rather than chased, wrestling megafauna to the ground before delivering a killing bite. American lion, Panthera atrox. Larger than today's lions, this predator stalked North America, perhaps hunting in prides. Cave lions, Panthera spelaea, roamed Europe and Asia, depicted in cave art, suggesting humans both feared and revered them. Short-faced bears, Arctodus simus, towering 3.5 meters tall when standing. These North American bears were among the largest mammalian carnivores ever. With long legs, they may have been pursuit hunters, though some argue they were dominant scavengers. Dire wolves, Canis dirus, heavier and stronger than modern wolves. Dire wolves hunted in packs, preying on bison and horses. This predator guild created a high-stakes environment, shaping prey behavior and human strategies for survival. While mammals dominated, birds also flourished. Giant condors and vultures scavenged carcasses left by predators. In South America, some regions still hosted terror birds, flightless carnivores with hooked beaks, descendants of earlier predatory lineages. Owls, eagles, and hawks adapted to the vast open grasslands, swooping down on rodents and small mammals that thrived in Ice Age ecosystems. Stretching from Western Europe across Siberia, Beringia, and into North America, the mammoth steppe was the largest biome of the Pleistocene. Despite its cold climate, it was astonishingly productive, dominated by hardy grasses, herbs, and low shrubs. Supported dense populations of mammoths, bison, horses, musk oxen, and predators. Extended continuously across continents, creating a vast corridor for migration. For tens of thousands of years, this biome was the engine of Ice Age life, sustaining both animals and humans. Surviving the Ice Age required specialized traits. Thick fur and fat layers, mammoths and woolly rhinos evolved insulating coats and fat reserves. Gigantism. Many species grew to enormous sizes, reducing heat loss. Migration. Herds traveled hundreds of kilometers in search of food. Social behavior. Herds of mammoths and bison provided safety in numbers, while packs of wolves and lions coordinated hunts. These strategies mirrored those of today's polar animals, but on a much larger scale. As humans spread into Eurasia and eventually North America, they entered a world dominated by megafauna. They hunted mammoths and bison, scavenged carcasses left by predators, and adapted tools for skinning and butchering. Cave paintings in France and Spain immortalized these creatures, revealing both reverence and dependence. Encounters with saber-toothed cats, cave lions, and bears made survival dangerous, requiring cooperation and ingenuity. The presence of such giants influenced not just human diets, but also myth, culture, and social bonds. The Ice Age was not a desolate frozen wasteland. It was a world teeming with colossal life forms, thriving in ecosystems as rich as any tropical rainforest. The giants of the Pleistocene defined the landscapes they inhabited, just as elephants, rhinos, and bison shape environments today. But this abundance was fragile. Climate shifts and human expansion would eventually bring it to an end. For now, though, the Ice Age was the kingdom of giants. In the next chapter, we'll turn from the beasts themselves to humans in the Ice Age, how they survived, innovated, and began to leave their mark on the frozen world. The Ice Age was a time when the world's landscapes were reshaped, but also a time when life adapted in astonishing ways. Out of the cold and the shifting climates came some of the most remarkable animals ever to walk the earth. They were the megafauna, giants of the Pleistocene, creatures that defined the age and left behind a legacy of awe and mystery. Perhaps the most iconic of all Ice Age giants were the mammoths, particularly the woolly mammoth. These massive herbivores, covered in long, shaggy hair and equipped with curved tusks, roamed the frozen tundra in herds. Their thick coats, layers of fat, and even their blood chemistry were perfectly tuned for survival in freezing climates. Close relatives, the mastodons, also thrived during this era. Unlike mammoths, mastodons preferred woodlands over open plains, feeding on shrubs and trees. Their teeth were adapted to crushing leaves and twigs rather than grazing on grasses. Together, these species dominated different niches, shaping ecosystems as they traveled and fed. Among the predators of the Ice Age, few were as fearsome or as famous as the saber-toothed cats, like Smilodon. Their long, dagger-like teeth could slice through flesh, making them formidable hunters. These cats were powerful and stocky, built for ambush rather than long chases. They hunted large prey, horses, bison, and young mammoths, often using strength and coordination rather than speed. Fossil evidence suggests they may have lived in groups, increasing their chances of survival in such harsh conditions. Far from the cold steppes of the north, in the Americas, lived the colossal giant ground sloths. Towering up to 6 meters when standing upright, these creatures moved slowly but were immensely powerful. Some species, like Megatherium, could strip entire trees of leaves with their huge claws. They were not predators, yet their sheer size and strength would have made them nearly invulnerable to most attacks, except from humans later in the story. Sharing the tundra with mammoths was another armored titan, the woolly rhinoceros, covered in dense fur with a massive horn at the front of its skull. This creature was adapted to withstand the brutal cold and defend itself from predators. Cave paintings from Ice Age humans depict these rhinos, suggesting they played a role in the lives and imaginations of early people. The Ice Age hosted many other spectacular creatures. Cave bears, huge omnivores that could weigh over a ton. Musk oxen, still alive today, relics of an ancient world. Glyptodonts, armored relatives of armadillos, the size of small cars. Short-faced bears, towering carnivores built for speed and power. Each of these animals carved out an existence in a world of extremes, where survival meant constant adaptation. The Neanderthals were perhaps the most iconic of our Ice Age cousins. They lived in Europe and parts of Asia for over 300,000 years, far longer than modern humans have existed so far. With stocky, powerful bodies, barrel-shaped chests, and broad noses, they were perfectly adapted to the cold. Their short limbs helped them retain heat, and their muscles gave them incredible strength, making them formidable hunters. Despite once being depicted as brutish and primitive, modern research shows Neanderthals were highly intelligent. They crafted sophisticated tools, controlled fire, made clothing, and even built shelters. Some evidence suggests they buried their dead and may have had symbolic thought, hinting at spiritual beliefs. Neanderthals thrived in Ice Age Europe, hunting reindeer, mammoths, woolly rhinoceroses, and other game. Their survival skills were so effective that when modern humans first arrived in Europe, they encountered a population deeply rooted in the land. Farther east lived another group of humans known as the Denisovans. For many years, their existence was unknown. Only a few fragments, a tooth, a finger bone, and traces of DNA revealed their story. Genetic studies uncovered that Denisovans interbred with both Neanderthals and modern humans. Their DNA still lives on in populations today, particularly among people in Asia, Oceania, and the Pacific Islands. This genetic inheritance gave certain groups traits that helped them adapt. For instance, a Denisovan gene helps modern Tibetans thrive in high altitudes with thin air. Though we know little of their culture, the Denisovans remind us that the Ice Age was not inhabited by just one kind of human, but by several, overlapping in time and space. Our own species, Homo sapiens, first appeared in Africa around 300,000 years ago. Unlike Neanderthals, we were tall and slender, adapted to endurance running in warmer climates. What set us apart, however, was not physical strength, but adaptability and imagination. Modern humans created tools from bone, antler, and ivory in addition to stone. We crafted needles to sew tailored clothing, built boats to cross seas, and invented traps and nets to catch fish and small game. These innovations gave us a wider range of resources, reducing the risks of starvation. We also developed complex language, which allowed us to share knowledge, plan hunts, and pass stories across generations. Language fostered cooperation on a scale that no other human species could match. As humans spread, so did art and culture. Cave paintings in France and Spain depict bison, horses, mammoths, and other animals with stunning realism. Hand stencils, abstract symbols, and depictions of hunts reveal an inner world of imagination. In addition to cave paintings, humans created figurines, such as the famous Venus figurines, representing fertility or symbolic ideals. Bone flutes and percussion instruments show that music was part of Ice Age life, creating rhythms that may have bonded groups together or carried spiritual meaning. The Ice Age world was not a stage with one species at a time. It was a web of interactions. When modern humans expanded into Europe and Asia, they encountered Neanderthals and Denisovans. Sometimes they competed for resources. Sometimes they avoided one another. And sometimes they interbred. These unions left lasting legacies. Most modern humans outside Africa carry 1 to 4% Neanderthal DNA, and some populations carry traces of Denisovan DNA as well. These genetic exchanges may have been crucial to our survival. Genes inherited from these relatives strengthened our immune systems and helped us adapt to new environments. Yet, while Homo sapiens flourished, the Neanderthals and Denisovans eventually vanished. By around 40,000 years ago, Neanderthals were gone. Denisovans likely disappeared even earlier. The reasons remain debated. Climate change reduced their food supplies. Competition with modern humans strained resources. Interbreeding may have absorbed their populations into ours. Or perhaps it was a combination of all these factors. Whatever the cause, by the end of the Ice Age, we were the last humans standing. The Ice Age shaped human migration. With so much water locked in glaciers, sea levels were lower, exposing land bridges that connected continents. From Africa, humans moved into the Middle East and Europe. Across Asia, they spread into Siberia and, through the Bering Land Bridge, into North and South America. In Southeast Asia, they sailed to Australia and the islands of the Pacific. By the end of the Ice Age, humans had reached every habitable continent on Earth. This expansion was unprecedented, and it was our ability to adapt to different climates, craft new tools, and form complex societies that made it possible. The Ice Age was not one long, unbroken freeze. It was a cycle of cold and warmth, glaciers advancing and retreating. But around 20,000 years ago, the climate began to shift permanently. Slowly, the grip of the ice began to loosen, leading to dramatic consequences for landscapes, ecosystems, and the magnificent creatures that once defined this era. As the Ice Age drew to a close, global temperatures began to rise. The vast glaciers that had once stretched across continents started to retreat, melting into enormous floods. Sea levels rose, drowning coastal plains and submerging land bridges. The planet transformed. Tundras shrank, giving way to forests and grasslands. Glacial lakes formed, some bursting in catastrophic floods that reshaped entire valleys. Islands appeared as rising seas, cut off regions that were once connected by land. The Ice Age world was vanishing, replaced by a warmer, greener earth. The great beasts that had ruled the Ice Age began to disappear. The mammoths, once so numerous, dwindled in population. The woolly rhinoceroses, giant ground sloths, saber-toothed cats, and countless other species vanished one by one. Scientists have long debated the reasons. Climate change. As forests spread into areas once dominated by tundra and grassland, the open habitats that supported mammoths and other grazers shrank. Food sources declined, and animals adapted to cold struggled in warmer conditions. Human hunting. By this time, humans had spread across nearly every continent. Skilled hunters armed with spears, bows, and coordinated strategies targeted large prey. Even a small amount of overhunting could have tipped fragile populations toward extinction. Combined pressures. Most likely, it was a combination of climate change and human hunting that spelled the end for these giants. Already stressed by environmental shifts, they could not withstand the added pressure of human predation. One of the most dramatic ecological changes was the disappearance of the mammoth steppe, a vast dry grassland that had stretched across Eurasia and North America. This ecosystem had supported herds of mammoths, horses, and bison, along with the predators that hunted them. As the climate warmed, moisture increased, and forests spread. The mammoth steppe collapsed. With it went the unique community of animals that had defined the Ice Age. Survivors of the Ice Age. Not all giants were lost. Some animals endured, shrinking in range or adapting to new environments. Bison survived and continue to roam North America. Elk, deer, and reindeer persisted in northern forests and tundras. Musk oxen, relics of the Ice Age, still survive in Arctic regions. Elephants, close relatives of the mammoths, continued in warmer climates. But for many, their time had ended, leaving behind only bones, fossils, and frozen remains. Remarkably, mammoths did not vanish everywhere at once. Most populations disappeared about 10,000 years ago, but small groups survived in isolated refuges. On Wrangel Island, off the coast of Siberia, mammoths lived until just 4,000 years ago, contemporary with ancient Egyptian civilization. Imagine that. While humans were building pyramids, the last mammoths still wandered a remote Arctic island, ghosts of an age that had already ended elsewhere. The extinction of the megafauna reshaped human history too. Without mammoths and giant sloths, people turned increasingly to smaller animals, fishing, farming, and eventually domesticating plants and animals. The end of the Ice Age and its extinctions paved the way for the Neolithic Revolution, when humans shifted from hunting and gathering to agriculture and permanent settlements. The loss of the great beasts marked both an end and a beginning, the end of the Ice Age wilderness and the beginning of the human-dominated world. The Great Ice Age slowly loosened its grip, and a new epoch dawned. Around 11,700 years ago, the Holocene began, the interglacial period we live in today. With the retreat of the glaciers, Earth entered a warmer, more stable climate. Forests spread, rivers flowed freely, and ecosystems flourished. But this wasn't only a new chapter for the planet itself. It was also the beginning of a new chapter for humanity. The landscapes of the Holocene were strikingly different from those of the Ice Age. Forests replaced tundra and steppe, stretching across Europe, Asia, and North America. Grasslands expanded in warmer, drier regions, supporting herds of grazing animals. Deserts grew, such as the Sahara, which transformed from fertile grassland to the vast expanse of sand we know today. Rising seas reshaped coasts, flooding valleys and creating new shorelines. Islands formed, peninsulas shrank, and continents took on their modern shapes. The Earth, as we recognize it today, began to take form. Many Ice Age species were gone, but their absence opened opportunities for others. Deer, wild cattle, and antelope thrived in expanding forests and plains. Predators like wolves, lions, and bears adjusted to new habitats, some shrinking in size as prey became smaller and more elusive. Humans, too, were reshaping ecosystems through hunting, fire, and eventually farming. The Holocene would not just be an age of recovery, it would be the dawn of an Anthropocene-like influence, where human activity began leaving permanent marks on the planet. One of the most profound shifts in human history occurred in the Holocene, the agricultural revolution. In the Fertile Crescent, people began cultivating wheat, barley, and lentils. In East Asia, rice and millet farming took root. In the Americas, maize, beans, and squash became staples. In Africa, sorghum and yams were domesticated. This change transformed humanity from hunter-gatherers to farmers. Instead of following herds and seasons, communities settled in permanent villages, giving rise to towns, cities, and eventually civilizations. Alongside plants, humans also domesticated animals. Dogs, already companions from Ice Age hunts, took on new roles as guards and herders. Goats, sheep, and cattle were domesticated for food, milk, and hides. Horses later revolutionized travel and warfare. These partnerships reshaped both human and animal destinies. With agriculture came surpluses of food. With surpluses came larger populations, trade, and social structures. The Holocene saw the rise of civilizations: Mesopotamia, Egypt, the Indus Valley, and China. Humans built cities, developed writing, constructed monuments, and created complex belief systems. Rivers like the Nile, Tigris, Euphrates, and Yangtze became the lifelines of early states. The Ice Age was a world where humans adapted to nature's extremes. The Holocene became a world where humans began to reshape nature itself. The Holocene's relatively stable climate set the stage for civilization. Unlike the dramatic swings of the Ice Age, temperatures remained steady enough for agriculture to flourish. But even within this stability, there were smaller fluctuations, periods of drought, floods, and cold snaps that tested societies. Some cultures collapsed under these pressures, while others adapted and thrived. Although the Ice Age ended, its memory lingered. The landscapes it shaped, fjords, carved valleys, glacial lakes, remain with us. The myths and traditions of many cultures also echo the Ice Age world, with legends of great floods, frozen lands, and monstrous beasts passed down through generations. One of the most remarkable tools for understanding the Ice Age is the study of ice cores. Scientists drilled deep into glaciers in Greenland, Antarctica, and high mountain ranges, retrieving cylinders of ice that preserve layers of snowfall accumulated over hundreds of thousands of years. Each layer contains microscopic bubbles of ancient air, dust, and even volcanic ash. By analyzing these trapped gases, researchers can reconstruct past temperatures, atmospheric compositions, and greenhouse gas concentrations. Through ice cores, We know that the Ice Age was not a uniform cold. It was punctuated by rapid warming events, some lasting only decades. These sudden climate swings affected the survival of species, the migration of humans, and the distribution of ecosystems. Fossils provide another window into the Ice Age world. From frozen mammoths in Siberia to cave paintings in Europe, fossils tell stories of life, death, and survival. Frozen remains preserve not only bones, but also hair, stomach contents, and even blood vessels, giving unprecedented insight into physiology and diet. Mass extinction events show how interconnected ecosystems were, with the loss of one species triggering cascading effects on others. Cave art and artifacts illuminate human thought, culture, and adaptation during these extreme times. Through these discoveries, scientists can trace the rise and fall of species, offering lessons about resilience, vulnerability, and the long-term consequences of environmental change. The Ice Age is also a story of human evolution. By combining archaeology, genetics, and anthropology, we understand how humans adapted to ice, snow, and tundra. Clothing, fire, and shelters allowed humans to inhabit regions that would have been otherwise unlivable. Toolmaking evolved rapidly, from simple flint knives to sophisticated hunting implements. Migration patterns reveal how humans exploited land bridges and followed herds of animals across continents. These lessons underscore humanity's adaptability, creativity, and dependence on environmental resources. Studying the Ice Age informs our understanding of modern climate change. Scientists compare past glacial and interglacial periods to today's warming trends, revealing both differences and parallels. Rapid ice retreat in the past led to rising sea levels and habitat loss, mirroring what could happen today under global warming. Shifts in flora and fauna during warming periods show how ecosystems respond to temperature changes. The disappearance of megafauna reminds us that species can be lost forever if environmental shifts outpace adaptation. By learning from the Ice Age, we gain perspective on human responsibility and the urgent need to protect biodiversity, manage resources, and anticipate climate impacts. The Ice Age also offers lessons about culture and resilience. Cave paintings, musical instruments, and figurines suggest that even in harsh environments, humans sought expression, storytelling, and meaning. Art provided social cohesion, shared knowledge, and possibly spiritual comfort. Rituals and symbolic behavior reinforce group identity and cooperation. Music and decoration fostered creativity and community bonding, essential for survival in harsh climates. These cultural legacies illustrate that survival is not only physical, it is social, emotional, and intellectual. Perhaps the greatest lesson from the Ice Age is the interconnectedness of Earth's systems. Climate, ice, oceans, vegetation, and animals all influenced each other, creating a delicate balance. Glacial advances shaped rivers, mountains, and coastlines. Changes in vegetation affected herbivores, which in turn influenced predators. Humans entered the web, impacting ecosystems, hunting species, and altering landscapes. Understanding these connections helps us appreciate the fragility and complexity of the planet. It also provides a blueprint for how we might approach conservation, resource management, and sustainability today. The Ice Age was more than a period of cold and glaciers. It was a crucible in which life, landscapes, and humanity itself were forged. Its legacy is written across continents, in valleys carved by ice, rivers swollen with meltwater, and coastlines reshaped by rising seas. The colossal glaciers that once dominated vast swaths of Earth retreated, leaving behind a world transformed, one that would become familiar to the humans who inherited it. As the ice sheets melted, they revealed landscapes that had been hidden for tens of thousands of years. Fertile valleys and plains emerged, creating spaces for forests, grasslands, and wetlands. Rivers, once blocked by glaciers or flowing as torrents of meltwater, settled into more stable channels, supporting the resurgence of vegetation and animal life. The oceans, replenished by glacial melt, reshaped coastlines, creating new bays, islands, and estuaries. These changes provided new habitats for marine species and allowed humans to expand along coasts, exploiting fish, shellfish, and marine mammals. The Earth's geography, sculpted by the rhythm of ice and water, became a canvas for life to flourish anew. Humans emerged as a central force in this transformed world. The challenges of the Ice Age, extreme cold, scarce food, and dangerous predators, had honed human creativity and resilience. In the Holocene, these skills became the foundation for agriculture, settlement, and civilization. Humans learned to manipulate their environments, cultivating crops suited to different climates and domesticating animals for sustenance and labor. Permanent villages grew into towns, fostering social complexity, trade, and governance. Artistic expression, cave paintings, carvings, and musical instruments became markers of culture and communication, uniting communities and preserving knowledge. The human story illustrates a profound principle. Survival is not only about physical strength, but also about intelligence, cooperation, and foresight. The Ice Age also teaches lessons about fragility and loss. Iconic species such as mammoths, giant ground sloths, saber-toothed cats, and woolly rhinoceroses vanished under the combined pressures of climate change and human expansion. Their disappearance reshaped ecosystems, creating opportunities for other species and altering food chains. These extinctions remind us that no species, however large or dominant, is immune to environmental change. They underscore the importance of conservation today, as human activity continues to impact biodiversity worldwide. The Ice Age was a period that showcased Earth's interconnected systems. Climate influenced glaciers. Glaciers shaped landscapes. Landscapes determined ecosystems, and ecosystems influenced human survival. Each component of the natural world relied on the others, forming a delicate web. Even today, this interconnectedness remains vital. Rising temperatures, melting ice, and shifting ecosystems echo the patterns of the past, providing both warnings and insights into the planet's resilience. The Ice Age left a cultural imprint as well. The art, rituals, and stories of Ice Age humans speak to a deep awareness of the natural world. Cave paintings of mammoths, bison, and predators not only reflect survival, but also imagination, observation, and reverence for life. Music, figurines, and early symbolic expressions indicate that humans sought meaning and connection even in harsh conditions. These legacies continue to inform art, mythology, and cultural memory, reminding us of humanity's enduring desire to understand and express the world around us. By the end of the Ice Age, humans had not only survived, they had laid the foundations of modern civilization. Agriculture, permanent settlements, and domesticated animals set the stage for technological advancement, trade, and the complex societies we know today. The Holocene became a period of possibility, allowing humans to thrive in ways unimaginable during the frozen ages. The Ice Age also influenced the genetic and cultural diversity of modern populations. Interactions with Neanderthals and Denisovans contributed to our genetic makeup, while migrations during and after the Ice Age shaped the spread of languages, traditions, and technologies. The Ice Age stands as both a reminder and an inspiration. It shows that life can endure extremes, adapt to challenges, and innovate in the face of adversity. It warns of fragility and the consequences of rapid change, while also demonstrating resilience, ingenuity, and cooperation. The frozen landscapes, colossal beasts, and early humans of the Ice Age may be long gone, but their legacy remains in our genes, our cultures, and the very earth we inhabit. They remind us that the story of life is one of continuous transformation, shaped by climate, adaptation, and the remarkable capacity of life to endure. The Ice Age ended, but its lessons continue. They teach us to respect the natural world, understand our place within it, and prepare for the changes that lie ahead. The past is etched in stone, ice, and memory, and it calls on us to honor the resilience of life while shaping a future that can endure.